The restaurant went completely silent the moment the expensive crystal glass shattered across the polished floor. Every customer turned toward the young waiter standing beside the table, his uniform stained with soup, while the city's richest billionaire slowly rose from his chair with a cold smile that suggested another innocent life was about to be crushed. The exhausted single father looked into the billionaire's eyes without blinking, wiped the soup from his face, and quietly said the words no one expected to hear. "Try mocking me again." For the first time in years, the billionaire's confident expression disappeared, replaced by something no one had ever seen before: fear. Before this emotional journey begins, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel Hardworking Dad if you believe kindness, second chances, and hard work always matter more than money. Your support helps us bring more inspiring stories just like this one. The man standing in the middle of that luxurious restaurant was named Adrian Cole, a 34-year-old single father whose life had become a never-ending battle after losing his wife 3 years earlier during a sudden illness. The hospital bills had taken everything they owned, including their small family home, leaving Adrian with nothing except his 5-year-old daughter, Nora, and a promise he had whispered beside his wife's hospital bed that he would always protect their little girl no matter how difficult life became. Every sunrise marked another day of impossible choices between paying rent, buying groceries, and making sure Nora never went to bed believing she was less important than anyone else. Every morning before daylight touched the streets, Adrian prepared Nora's breakfast, packed her lunch with whatever food he could afford, braided her hair despite never learning properly, and walked her to school with a smile that hid the exhaustion behind his eyes. After dropping her off, he hurried to the upscale restaurant where wealthy executives enjoyed meals costing more than Adrian earned in an entire week. He worked double shifts, rarely sat down, and accepted every extra hour available because every dollar meant another chance to give Nora a better future. Most customers never noticed him. To them, he was simply another waiter carrying plates with practiced hands and apologizing whenever something went wrong. Some were polite, some ignored him completely, while others treated him as though he were invisible. Adrian had learned long ago that pride could not feed a hungry child. He swallowed every insult with quiet dignity because going home unemployed was never an option. Nora became the light that kept him moving forward. Although she was still very young, she understood more than Adrian realized. She never complained when birthdays were simple or when Christmas gifts came from second-hand stores. Instead, she proudly displayed every handmade drawing she created for her father, filling their tiny apartment with colorful pictures of smiling families standing beneath bright sunshine. On every drawing she carefully wrote the same sentence in uneven handwriting: "My daddy is my hero." Those words became Adrian's strength whenever life seemed unbearable. One warm afternoon, the restaurant announced that a famous billionaire investor named Victor Langford would be hosting an important business luncheon. Victor was known throughout the country for building a financial empire worth billions, but he was equally famous for humiliating employees, firing workers over tiny mistakes, and believing that wealth made him superior to everyone around him. His arrival caused panic among the restaurant staff because everyone feared becoming his next victim. Managers polished every table twice. Chefs inspected every plate before it left the kitchen. Waiters rehearsed every movement until their feet ached. Adrian simply focused on doing his job as perfectly as possible because failure carried consequences he could not afford. When Victor entered, expensive cameras followed him while business partners surrounded him with forced laughter. His tailored suit, luxury watch, and confident posture announced power before he even spoke. As Adrian approached with appetizers, Victor barely glanced at him before making a dismissive gesture, treating him as though he were another piece of furniture. The lunch progressed smoothly until another waiter accidentally bumped Adrian's arm while rushing between crowded tables. The bowl tilted, sending hot soup across the expensive tablecloth and splashing onto Adrian's own uniform before falling onto the floor with a loud crash. The room became silent. Victor slowly stood from his chair, staring at the soaked waiter with open contempt. Instead of accepting the obvious accident, he began ridiculing Adrian's appearance, his job, and his worth as a human being. Several guests lowered their eyes in embarrassment while others laughed nervously, unwilling to challenge a man whose fortune could influence their own businesses. Adrian felt every word like another wound, yet something inside him finally refused to bend. He remembered Nora waiting at home with another drawing she could not wait to show him. He remembered every promise made beside his wife's hospital bed. He realized his daughter deserved a father who possessed dignity, not just survival. Looking directly into Victor's eyes, Adrian calmly said, "Try mocking me again." The sentence carried no anger, no shouting, and no threat. It carried truth. Victor suddenly stopped speaking. His face turned pale. His hands trembled almost invisibly. Nobody understood why. What Adrian did not know was that Victor recognized the old silver bracelet wrapped around Adrian's wrist. Years earlier, before becoming unimaginably wealthy, Victor had nearly died after a devastating highway accident. A stranger had pulled him from his burning vehicle moments before it exploded. In the confusion, the rescuer disappeared before anyone learned his identity. The only clue investigators remembered was the unusual silver bracelet worn by the man who saved Victor's life. Victor had spent years searching unsuccessfully for that unknown hero. Now that bracelet stood before him. Victor's confident mask collapsed. His mind replayed the terrifying memory of flames, smoke, shattered glass, and the strong hands dragging him toward safety while risking everything. Without that stranger, there would have been no billion-dollar company, no fortune, and no successful career. The billionaire slowly asked Adrian where he had gotten the bracelet. Adrian quietly explained it had belonged to his late father, a volunteer firefighter who had dedicated his entire life to helping strangers. Before passing away, Adrian's father had given him the bracelet as a reminder that real strength meant lifting others instead of looking down on them. Adrian also casually mentioned how his father once rescued an injured businessman from a burning luxury car many years ago before returning home without expecting thanks or recognition. Victor's eyes filled with tears. For the first time in decades, he understood exactly who stood before him. The son of the man who had saved his life. The son of the man whose kindness had built everything Victor possessed. Without another word, Victor stepped away from the table, shocking everyone by apologizing publicly to Adrian in front of every customer, every employee, and every executive in the restaurant. His voice shook with genuine regret as he admitted that wealth had blinded him to the value of ordinary people. The room remained completely silent because no one had ever imagined hearing those words from a man famous for arrogance. Adrian accepted the apology with quiet grace. He did not celebrate. He did not seek revenge. He simply nodded and returned to cleaning the broken glass because responsibility still mattered more to him than pride. That simple act humbled Victor even further. Over the following weeks, Victor could not stop thinking about Adrian's character. Despite years of hardship, Adrian had never become bitter. Despite humiliation, he had remained respectful. Despite poverty, he had preserved something far more valuable than money, his integrity. Victor quietly investigated Adrian's life and discovered the painful truth behind his struggles. He learned about the late-night shifts, unpaid medical bills, the tiny apartment, and the little girl who proudly called her hardworking father a hero. One evening, Victor visited Adrian's apartment without cameras, reporters, or bodyguards. He saw Nora sitting at a small table coloring pictures while Adrian cooked a simple dinner. Their home contained very little, yet it overflowed with laughter, kindness, and genuine love. Victor realized he had spent decades building wealth while forgetting to build a meaningful life. Instead of offering charity, Victor offered opportunity. He invited Adrian to help oversee employee relations within one of his companies, explaining that someone who truly understood hardship would know how workers deserve to be treated. Adrian hesitated because he feared leaving the restaurant, but Victor promised that every decision would prioritize fairness, dignity, and compassion. Months later, the company transformed in remarkable ways. Employee satisfaction increased dramatically. Staff turnover fell. Families received better benefits, flexible schedules, and educational assistance. Adrian insisted that every worker deserved respect regardless of their position because every parent fighting for their children carried invisible battles. Nora watched proudly as her father exchanged his waiter uniform for professional clothes, but Adrian never forgot where he came from. He regularly visited the restaurant, greeting every employee by name and thanking the waiters who continued serving others with quiet dedication. He reminded them that a person's value could never be measured by a job title. Victor changed as well. The billionaire established scholarships honoring Adrian's late father, supporting children of firefighters, paramedics, nurses, and emergency workers who dedicated their lives to protecting strangers. Every scholarship carried one message engraved beneath the family name. True greatness begins with kindness. Years passed, and Nora grew into a confident young woman inspired by her father's resilience. Whenever people asked how her family escaped hardship, she smiled and answered that everything changed the day her father chose courage over fear and dignity over anger. Adrian often looked at the old silver bracelet resting on his wrist and remembered his father's lesson. Kindness might seem invisible in the moment, but its impact could travel through generations, changing lives in ways no one could ever predict. The restaurant where humiliation once echoed eventually became known for something entirely different. Employees were treated with respect, customers experienced genuine hospitality, and new managers trained every worker using Adrian's philosophy that every human being deserved dignity regardless of income, appearance, or social status. The day that began with broken glass and cruel mockery ended by transforming countless futures. Sometimes the strongest person in the room is not the one with the largest fortune or the loudest voice. Sometimes true strength belongs to the exhausted single father who keeps showing up every day, carrying invisible burdens while refusing to let the world steal his kindness. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, leave a heartfelt comment, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to Hardworking Dad. Your support allows us to continue sharing inspiring stories that remind the world compassion is never wasted. Special request: comment below with the words, "Kindness always wins," if you believe every hardworking parent deserves respect, no matter their job. As Adrian walked hand in hand with Nora beneath the warm afternoon sunlight, he realized something priceless. His greatest success had never been escaping poverty or earning a better career. His greatest achievement was raising a daughter who believed kindness was stronger than wealth, humility was greater than pride, and love would always outshine hatred. And somewhere behind them, a billionaire silently watched, forever grateful that the son of an unknown hero had reminded him what true greatness really meant.